Hi, I'm Nick, and I run BallRaiser, where we help fast-growing companies to establish best interviewing practices and best hiring practices, which practices in turn enable these companies to ship products more efficiently and launch new territories, so on and so forth. If this is a topic of interest to you, please subscribe to our channel. In today's video, I'd like to talk about how do you measure and how do you quantify the performance of the interviewers in your company. So as I unpack this topic, I will first discuss why it's important to have the ability to measure your interviewers and their efficacy, and two, I'll discuss how you do it. Let's start with one, why it is important to be able to measure the efficacy of your interviewers. It's important to measure the performance of your interviewers because your best interviewers might be introverts. They might not be charismatic and outgoing people, yet they might be the members on your teams who have the best ability, the best capacity to determine if you should hire a candidate or not. Part two of today's talk would be how do you measure the performance of your interviewers in an objective and evidence-based fashion. I'll discuss a couple of ways to do so. You could measure the efficacy of your interviewers by tracking the performance of the hires who they brought into your company and then index their interview decision making based on the performance of these new hires. In order to be able to do so, you need to add a few additional metrics to the employee performance and evaluation process that you run at your company. If you evaluate your employees maybe, let's say, every 6 months, what you also need to do is keep track of the interview loop that brought this employee to your company and how every interviewer voted on this interview loop. Depending on if the new hire, the new employee, turns out to be a strong performer or not, coupled with the interview hire or no hire decisions of the interview loop, the combination of these two factors is going to give you an indexed performance of each of the interviewers who participated in the interview loop. I'll give you a couple of examples to help illustrate this. Let's say that your new hire turned out to be a rock star. And 6 months down the line, you're evaluating the performance of this employee. She is an absolute standout and is in the top 20% of your company, hypothetically. Next, you take a look at the interviewers who participated in that loop. If the interviewer voted with a higher vote for this employee, given that now 6 months later she's a rock star, that interviewer gets a +1 index in their interviewer performance file. If another interviewer voted to not hire this person, then he or she gets a -1 index. Conversely, a different example, if you hired somebody who is struggling, 6 months later their performance is clearly lagging, you next analyze the interview votes that brought this candidate on board. Logically, if an interviewer had voted to hire this employee, he or she would get a -1 index. An interesting nuance here is that you could assign different weights to those interviewer performance indices. For example, in the second case, when the employee is an underperformer and somebody voted to hire her, that's a clear -1 index. However, what happens if somebody voted to not hire the person, yet the interview loop overrode this individual? You hired the employee, she ended up being an underperformer. This interviewer who initially voted no hire, you could argue that they should not get a full +1 index. You should temper that down somewhat because they were onto something, which is outstanding, but also they failed to convince the rest of the loop in what they saw. So maybe you don't give them a full +1 index point, you give them 0.75 or 0.5, so on and so forth. So that's how we help our customers quantify the performance of their interviewers. We put in place a dozen or so of these interviewer evaluation index points, and they help you track the performance of your interviewers. Ideally, I would suggest that it's not advisable to let the interviewers know what their scores are, because then you're in the king-making business of interviewers. You don't necessarily want to do so, but you want to maybe have that interviewer performance score as an input, as a measurement point across your company, where you review those metrics with leadership and you know clearly who are your finest interviewers, and then how do you reward them. You want to make sure that they're included in high stakes interview loops. I wouldn't suggest that you pay them for being interviewers. Doing so would disincentivize their intrinsic motivation to be interviewers. It's usually not a good idea to pay your culture champions or bar raisers or whatever you want to call them. You want that motivation to be intrinsic, but you invite them to be part of ever more important interview loops. And lastly, as a sidebar here, a number of companies would choose not to promote an employee to the very senior echelons of the company, maybe a director level, a GM level, a VP level, so on and so forth, unless that employee has exhibited very strong interviewer performance and they have proven via this evidence-based, quantifiable fashion that they can vet talent appropriately for your organization. I hope this was useful. If it was, please subscribe to our channel. Please ask us questions. Check out our site at barraiser.io, and the very best of luck to you as you look to hire top talent on your teams. You got this. Bye.